we've had a good camp. The guys have really worked. They've competed. We've pressed them. We've had a lot of tough conversations, a lot of learning opportunities. The guys have responded well. And so we're excited. We got a lot of work to do, but we're excited about the progress to this point. We've broken this thing down into 4 phases. Phase 1, as you heard me mention, was the winter. Phase 2, the spring. Phase 3, the summer. And now we're in phase 4, the final phase leading up to the start of the season. So we're attacking this phase. The preparation up to this point has been really good, and we're accomplishing a lot each day out there. And we're excited. We got Fan Day, I believe, Sunday. I encourage everybody to come out and spend some time with our players and our staff. We want to be transparent. We're going to be approachable. We want the relationships. We want our fans feeling close and getting to know this football team. So, I believe that's on Sunday, and we're excited about that. So from there, I'll open it up for questions.
Go in the front, Mike Barber.
Hey, Coach, I'm curious. You always hear players talk about getting a clean slate when a new coaching staff comes in. Have you noticed any guys who have particularly maybe relished kind of a second chance to make a first impression and with you and your staff?
Yeah, so I think there's a bunch of guys that have done that. I think there was a kind of a renewed outlook for the majority of the team, that this was a chance to kind of reboot. And I said as much to them, that we did not as a staff go back to the previous staff and get opinions and get judgments and get evaluations. We didn't want that. It was a clean slate. You come in, and no matter where it's been or what's happened or mistakes that were made or weaknesses that were there, we're going to identify things as we move forward. And what's important to this staff maybe wasn't important to the last staff, and vice versa. So, we wanted an atmosphere where the majority of the team was able to feel that way. Good question.
We talked last week about potential position changes, specifically the defense. You might be still looking for things. Have any of those happened? And have you guys gotten to pads, I think, in the last couple of days? Still healthy? Any injuries to kind of mention so far right now?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, not really anything significant. We've got a couple of guys kind of training in some sub packages. Kelly Lawson's a versatile guy that is learning more than one position right now. J.R. Walker's learning more than one position right now. Keontae Jenkins is learning more than one position right now. To create flexibility and depth, Chamari Connor is learning more than one position right now. So per se, is there an actual position change? No, but we've got some guys that we've opened up the playbook a little bit more for them to create flexibility and opportunity for them. Get our best 11 out there. And then secondly, injuries, nothing significant to report at this time.
Brent, along the lines of being transparent and engaging with the base and such, you have been very front and center in doing that since you were hired. Is that approach, does that come from James Franklin, from anyone else you worked for or with, or even from your dad?
The transparency, and I've mentioned this, it's the best way, I believe, to do things and to operate. I don't like gray. I want to be forthright, whether I'm dealing with my children, my wife, my football team. I don't like playing games. We're going to cut to the chase. Everything we're involved in is tough enough already. And when you're not forthright and transparent, and to me, it muddies the water. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for our fan base. I don't want that for our staff, our players. We want to be direct, and it is what it is. And so we'll be that way moving forward.
Question from the back of the room.
Coach, you didn't take any of the evaluations from the old staff, but obviously you've been here long enough and taken a look at everything and have a few practices under your belt to get your own impression of what needs improvement and what really needs to be the focus of this camp as far as getting this team back on track. So what have some of those observations been from you and your staff, some of the real things that need to be focused on first in camp here?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't like the answer if I said everything, but it's the truth. We're still a work in progress. It doesn't matter what unit you're talking about, what side of the ball. If you're talking about depth, I mean, we need improvement in all areas right now. But more specifically, we need a couple more receivers to step up to the plate and, that we feel like we can win with. We need to continue to establish depth on the offensive line. We need to establish depth and, to be honest, nail down a starter at the linebacker position. We need to establish depth in the secondary. So there's still a lot of areas. Schematically, I feel pretty good about where we are from an installation standpoint. We're moving forward. I feel like we're going to be able to get the majority of our package in on both sides of the ball. And I don't just mean in, I mean installed where we can be efficient with it. But, the guys are understanding what we expect: situational football, procedural, the things that also are important in how we go about our business entering this season. So, we are a work in progress, but there are some key areas that, we hope to see some strides in.
Brent, do you have a timeline for naming a starting quarterback?
I would say next week. We've got a half scrimmage this afternoon. We've got a scrimmage on Saturday. So coming out of those two, there should be a significant number of snaps that maybe we'll feel good about doing that.
What do you have to see from an individual or see in that competition to come to a conclusion?
I don't know that it's particularly what I'm looking for. It's giving them both ample opportunity to demonstrate where they're at in the offense and the improvements they made this summer.
Brent, I know we talked about this in Charlotte a little, but how did you and your staff go about identifying the leaders on this team? And how do you, technique, how do you coach leaders and leadership?
Yeah, I think you put guys in leadership positions. You give them responsibility, put them up in front of the team. You show examples of what they do that demonstrates leadership. You talk about that in front of the team. But natural leadership emerges, through the adversity. I've told them I want this camp to be very difficult. And that's one of the reasons why, because the leaders rise to the top when it's tough. When the offense kicking the snot out of the defense, what defensive players are stepping up? Where's the real leadership when the chips are down? But, it's a year-long process. You earn leadership, you develop leadership through the winter, the spring, the summer, through all the occurrences, the hurdles, the adversity, and, the trust. And we go around the room all the time in a team meeting and ask about an ultimate teammate. And, they all want to be the ultimate teammate. And what does that entail? What are the sacrifice, the unselfishness, the respect, the work ethic, all the things that are important. We're going to be voting on captains here in the near future. And we've talked already about what that looks like. What embodies a real captain. And so, those are things, again, the growth and development isn't just physical. It's a maturity. It's an awareness. It's what's really important in us being successful. What are the championship habits that we're looking for?
You guys have a lot of new faces at defensive end. How has that rotation kind of developed from the spring where you were changing positions? A lot of guys moved up front. I mean, where are they now, kind of 4 months later after the summer program?
Yeah, I still feel really good about that group. Griff and Ty, Cole Nelson, C.J. McCray, those four guys have really done a nice job. Maybe that's the greatest depth we have of any unit right now. Those four guys, I feel by the end of camp, we should feel really good about the group we can put out there. And we've got a couple of young guys. Eli Adams is still in the loop there, and I like our young defensive ends that we signed. Those guys have shown flashes already. So I'm excited about the group.
Hey, Brent, over here. From the very beginning, you talked about recruiting in the Commonwealth. Didn't realize you'd be so good that you'd get Cole Beck back, a guy who is from this area, was on the football team, and decided to focus on track. Did it take much convincing for him to come back? And what do you see in him that he could contribute to the team?
Well, his nickname's White Lightning because that guy can run now, right? So I don't have to see much more than that. He's the fastest guy on the team the minute he stepped on the field.
Yeah.
He's, he had to convince us that he really wanted to do this. This wasn't just, yeah, man, boy, I'd like to be on the team again, because this wasn't going to be easy. This was going to be a tough road to transition back to football, knocking off the rust and learning a playbook. And so there was a lot of work to be involved, and I wanted to make sure he was really committed to it before we started messing with it. And, he proved that. He came through my office several times talking to staff members about what he wanted to do, talked to his track coaches. And then in addition, once we kind of said we'd do it, the work ethic he put in this summer was impressive. It really showed me he's committed to kind of having success and making this thing work. So he's done everything right to this point, and he's getting better every day.
Brent, a Power 5 head coaching job comes with many responsibilities: CEO, X's and O's, administrator. But have you found that you relish kind of being the front man, the face of the program? You've got a little flash to you. You've been a bit of a showman. Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy engaging with others and, in essence, selling Virginia Tech football?
That's a fair question. I don't know that I would call it showmanship. You can look back over my career, and I think any player or staff member I've been around, this is fun for me. And just becoming the head coach wasn't going to take that away. I wasn't going to let it. I want this to be fun. It's going to be fun with you guys, with our fans, with our team, with our staff. That's one of the reasons I do this, is it's fun. And the minute that it's not, I'm not sure I'm going to want to do it anymore. That piece of it is fun, and I want the guys to have fun. As hard as they work, and as hard as our staff works, I want to keep it fun for everybody. It just can't be a grind. Then all of a sudden, nobody wants to come to work. Nobody wants to come to practice. Nobody wants to meet. They're not looking forward to coming over here. I want folks to want to come in our building and want to be part of this and be excited about it. So it has to be fun.
Steve on the left.
Hi, Coach. When you were selecting your staff after you got hired, how much of a balance do you have to do between how they coach on the field and how they recruit? And following up on that, how did that end up going as far as compared to what you envisioned it being before you actually did it?
Yeah, the balance between coaching and recruiting is critical. You have to be able to do both. And you may not do it exactly like the next guy, but you have to have a method, a formula that's successful. Whether it's the coaching piece, some guys are better in the meeting setting. Some guys are better on the field as teachers. Recruiting, some guys do better recruiting quantity. Some guys do better recruiting quality, fewer numbers. But it was knowing enough about each candidate, about each guy I wanted to bring in, that they could do both of those things. And then you have to find, it has to be men and women that are committed to our players and treating them right and building relationships and, and being right for Virginia Tech. So there was a lot that went into it. I feel very, very fortunate. I think we have the absolute best staff that we could have here at Virginia Tech. Very pleased with the way things turned out and very proud of what the guys have accomplished to this point on the recruiting front and the coaching front.
Back of the room on the right, Brooke.
Hey, Coach. What would you say has been the most surprising part for you about this Phase 4 fall camp?
Surprising part of Phase 4, I don't know if there's been many surprises. It's a little bit, it's new for me, not being entrenched in the defense, wanting to kick the snot out of the offense every day. I want to see both sides do well. And so that's been a little bit different. I don't know that it's a surprise. But, our kids work hard and they compete. And I see growth, each and every practice, on an individual basis and as a team. So, a lot of positives. Can't really say that there's a surprise right now.
with the running backs, you've kind of mentioned this summer, Malachi Thomas was kind of the informal leader at that group. Has anything changed? And do you still have a plan to use Chance and Keyshawn at wide receiver because there's not enough reps maybe to go around?
Yeah, so that's a competitive room. And the first thing I want to say is, all those guys have done well, but Holston has really impressed me this summer and this camp. He's been very consistent, which is something that we were asking and looking for. But Chance, matter of fact, had a great day yesterday. Really noticed him. That's one of the nice things about being the head coach. You can kind of at times step back in a period and you're seeing all of it. And it's easy to see players that stand out. It's easy to have a conversation with a young man after 6 practices and say, I haven't noticed you yet. You say this, you do that, and I haven't noticed you. Yesterday, Chance Black, I certainly noticed him. He had a real good day. We're doing a lot more with Keyshawn. He's a smart football player. He's got a lot of versatility. And, so it's a good room. And Coach Bowen and the staff are doing a great job trying to maximize between that room and Connor and the things we can do. So I'm excited about that.
Coach Pry, seems like you've adjusted pretty well here in Blacksburg. But how's your family adjusted to being here in Blacksburg?
Yeah, they love it. They're excited about it. They're excited about the school, excited about the home, excited about being part of this. They're still at the beach right now, and my 13-year-old, I said something about going into a team meeting, and she said, tell everybody, I said, hi. And I said, of course I will. You'll be back soon. And she said, I'm glad. It's like a second home for me, meaning the facility and the area. And that's what I want for them. And, we're doing this together. So I'm in here too many hours for them not to be part of it. And that goes for the entire staff and their families. So adjusting well. Thank you for asking.
Hey, Brent, when you were talking earlier about wanting to test these guys to kind of draw out the leadership, and can you give a few examples of how you've put them into a crucible to determine those things? I mean, what kind of, is it drills? Is it sprints? Is it a combination of different things?
I think it's all of it, right? I mean, we designed this thing to be difficult. It has to be, number one, if you're doing it the right way, just by the process. There's going to be difficult situations, whether it's competitive period, whether it's involvement in special teams, right? Leadership, you don't take a back seat in special teams. Leaders don't take a back seat in walkthrough. Leaders don't think that they know it all. They're constantly demonstrating that they're still learning and they're a sponge and they want to know more. Leaders are in the meeting rooms extra. Leaders are doing extra after practice. Leaders are stepping up when a young guy's getting disillusioned or upset or feeling, he's in his feelings too much. Tough times, one of the units has a bad day. Somebody has a bad period. Leaders are the guys that step up. When you're just not asking yourself to do what's required, when you're willing and able and wanting to do more for this football team, I think that's a real sign of leadership. So there's situations all over football for leadership to present itself. It's our job to recognize it and bring it forward and make sure the team understands that.
Hey, Brent, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a number of your players sign on to different NIL opportunities. First and foremost, where do you feel like Virginia Tech currently sits as far as its competitiveness in the NIL field? And then, I don't know, how have you seen maybe your players get impacted by some of those opportunities and maybe the lasting impacts on them?
Yeah, my hope for our NIL space was that we would be competitive, and I think we are. And I think our players would say the same thing. I saw an announcement the other day, there were 28 to 30 guys signed with Triumph. I think that number's probably closer to 50 by now. Guys are appreciative. There's a lot of good work being done. And I think, I'm comfortable where we are right now. I think we are competitive, but I also know that space we're going to need to grow, continue to grow and prosper in that area to be competitive.
On the left, Tim Thomas.
Brent, you've had now your full freshman class here for a summer and a couple of your mini camps this fall. What are you seeing from that group, and who do you think might be contributors immediately for your team?
Yeah, it's a good group. I am excited about him. Probably the guy that jumps out offensively the most right now, maybe two guys. Braylon Moore, Caden's younger brother. You know, we had him on the D-line in the spring. And I still, once in a while, I see flashes and I say, boy, he might have been pretty decent as a D tackle. But he's excelling under Coach Rudolph on the offensive line. I think he's a young man that's positioning himself for playing time and, real reps, substantial reps. And we're only 7 days in with him as an offensive lineman, but he's made tremendous progress. The other young man that's the tight end room, those three young guys, St. Germain, Gosnell, and Daquan Wright, you'd have to show me three better freshman tight ends, particularly after the summer they had. Body types, physical abilities, they're all a little bit different. They have different strengths, but the combination of those three, I'm really excited about. So defensively, I'm excited about both those young ends, Burgos and Moiston. Those two guys have flashed. They can run, or athletic. They do a lot of things naturally. And, and then also, I think when you look in the secondary, there's a lot of growth going on right now with Cam Johnson. I don't know if he'll help us this fall or not, but he's making tremendous strides to the point I feel like I need to mention him. But we've got some good candidates. I'm pleased with that freshman class.
Brent, you mentioned finding more depth at linebacker. You're a linebacker guy. You've coached linebackers. Is there anything specific you hope to see from that group over the next couple of weeks? And specifically at Sam linebacker, that's kind of a new position. You said Keeley and Keonta and JR are all practicing at multiple positions. What have you seen from those guys throughout fall camp so far?
Yeah, those guys bring a lot of athleticism to that spot. All three of those guys, JR, Keonta, and Kelly, probably have a little bit more DB in them than what I'm used to over the last 4 or 5 years. But so now it's getting them schooled up and trained for the linebacker piece of it. But they have range and athleticism. They have to learn to give their body up a little bit more than they did at safety and receiver. It can get messy down in there as often as we're going to bring them and send them off the edge. So, but those guys have had a good camp so far. I'm excited about them. The depth to me isn't just about somebody emerging. It's playing those guys in two spots. I've always done that. You teach them one position, and when they're ready, you teach them a second one. It creates depth at the position, and so we're in the process of doing that right now.
Final question for you, Coach, from Mike.
Yeah, you mentioned the defensive backs and depth. At corner, how have you seen the position battle opposite Dorian between Armani and Breon? Coach Jones has been very complimentary of Breon. Has he kind of taken a step forward and maybe leading, in terms of like who's going to be the number one guy there? What are your kind of thoughts there?
Yeah, I tell you, I'm pleased right now. It's definitely an area where we need depth to continue to come. Dorian has had a great camp. I couldn't be more excited about that guy. He needs to continue to get better, but he's making plays each and every practice. On opposite of him, we got a good battle on our hands. Breon's done some really good things, but after challenging Armani, he's put together arguably his best stretch since I've been here, and maybe since he's been here. So I feel good about that. Competition, leads to development and improvement, and those two guys are in a good one right there.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Appreciate everybody.
We're going to have offensive coordinator Tyler Bowen up next.